Hello everyone, welcome to my new video. My name is Nianne. If you're new here, I make videos about animals, every week a different animal, and this week I'll be talking about the ruby-throated hummingbird, or also known as the... let me try, it's a difficult name. Archilochus colubris. I probably said it wrong. We're going to move on. I want to talk about the appearance of the hummingbird, anatomy, diet, the food that they eat, and reproduction, of course also threats, because as I've said before in my introduction video, I think it's important to talk about the well-being of the animals and that everyone knows what's going on with the animal and if there are any solutions to help the animal or just be more aware of it as well. So we'll be talking about that as well, and of course the habitats. There's a slight difference between males and females. However, in the first year they look similar. They both have emerald green heads and backs as well. And their wings have kind of this purple blackish color, and their chin and belly is white. That's how they look like first year, at least for the males. And females will kind of stay this way. Females have a more slender head than males do. And males, they display dark stippled lines on their throat, which can turn red as they mature. Immature birds of both sexes have white tips on the outer three tail feathers, and they're called ruby-throated hummingbird because of the ruby colored throat that the males have. It's quite obvious, this color red, and yeah, they're very pretty hummingbirds. I think hummingbirds in general are very interesting with the ways they can move their wings. It's like not a lot of birds, at least as far as I know, not a lot of other birds are able to move their wings, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. Pretty much everyone knows that hummingbirds are very small birds. Just like the ruby-throated hummingbird, they're also very small. They weigh 2 to 20 grams, and in summer females weigh around 3.8 grams and males around 3.5 grams. During fall, during autumn, they will gain weight to prepare themselves for migration, because they migrate from northern America to around the Gulf of Mexico, so they migrate a pretty far, long way, so they need to gain weight for that travel. Typically they have 10 primary feathers, 6 to 7 secondary feathers, and 10 rectrices. I'm not sure how to say that word, but if you're a fan of birds, you'll know what I mean. Hopefully. And they also have a large stamen. The feet are small, they're unsuitable for walking, so they pretty much fly only. They have three toes pointing forward and then one back, so they can grip into branches and such. Their wingspan is 8 to 11 centimeters long. The wings are long and pointed, allowing for unique flight patterns that include hovering, forward and backward movement. A lot of birds are not able to do this. They can only go forward and they cannot hover as good as hummingbirds can, because generally speaking a lot of birds don't need to be able to do that movement, so they're not evolved that way to make those movements. Another very interesting thing about hummingbirds is that they have the largest heart to body ratio of all warm-blooded animals, which is nuts because hummingbirds are so small and then their hearts are so big. But their hearts have to be big because of all the energy they put out into hovering. They move their wings so much and fast. They need to have a good blood circulation to keep going. So that's why their hearts are so big. And also to be able to make those hovering movements, they have a very big breast muscles, which weigh up around 30% of the total body weight, so a lot goes into the breast as well. Besides the breast, they also have pretty large brains for such a small animal. 4.2% of their body weight is the brain. Their bills are very highly specialized, with prongs and separated edges that are uniquely adapted for feeding. They need those special bills for... let's get into the diet, to the foods they eat. They eat nectar. They're recognized as nectar feeders. A lot of plants and flowers, they go like up. They're small and go up. So birds need to be able to like reach all the way down into the flower. and that's why their bills are specialized this way. Besides nectar, they also eat spiders and tiny insects such as flies, gnats, aphids for a source of fat and protein, especially during migration times. They just need that extra energy for the long travel. It was kind of difficult to find things about this topic, but I found some things. First of all, they can be around 5 years, the males can. This is the maximum recorded age, and females can be around 9 years. It was very difficult to find really good information about reproduction. I did find some things, but it's from a very old scientific paper, and it's just about, I think, one ruby-throated hummingbird nest. That's why I got my information from, because I couldn't really find any other scientific papers, so that's what we have to do with it. I think that paper was from 1970 something, so it's a little bit outdated, but yeah, it is what it is. Ruby-throat hummingbird is the only hummingbird species that breeds in eastern North America and migrates between the Neo-Arctic and Neotropical regions, so from North America to around the Gulf of Mexico, as I've said before. During breeding season, males, especially the older males, are much more territorial. During the rest of the year, they're not that territorial. They don't really care, except when it comes to breeding. Then they care. The ruby-throat hummingbird, they like a real song. Quite a lot of birds have their own song, but ruby-throat hummingbirds don't. The males will perform by flying back and forth to the females. The nests are usually found near open spaces. They also like to be near water, in the woods, and areas rich in flowers. The nests are built 5 to 20 feet above ground, using materials such as thistle, dandelion, milkweed down, fern, and moss. Usually the females will lay around 2 eggs from late March to early September, and the incubation time is 12 to 17 days. The eggs are laid 1 to 3 days apart from each other. The female is responsible for brooding and feeding the young, and the young will usually leave around 18 to 20 days after they hatch from the eggs. Ruby-throated hummingbirds usually produce 2 or 3 brods each year. As I've said before, they migrate a very long travel journey, and they inhabit a wide range of locations including Belize, Costa Rica, the USA, and several Caribbean islands. They're primarily woodland birds, so they prefer the woods such as eastern deciduous and pine forest, forest edges and openings, but they also like tropical deciduous forest, gardens, orchards, and scrub areas. They especially like to be near water sources that support insect life. Really a mix of habitat, also meadows, wetlands, mature forests. They all provide an ideal living condition for the hummingbirds. Now we go to the rather unpleasant but important bit of the video, the threats. The ruby-throated hummingbird is actually doing pretty great. Since October 12, 2020, the ruby-throated hummingbird is listed as least concern on the IUCN Red List. They have a large population and they're growing pretty fast, so they're doing good, which is great. However, despite its success, the hummingbirds are, generally speaking, they also face threats from human activities, including cat predation, that's a very big one, and collisions of buildings, vehicles, and power lines. The largest sources of bird mortality often align with areas of high human population density. I found a study that revealed that there was a net loss of nearly 3 billion North American bird species, which is 29% of their 1970 bird population. That's such a big number. Since 1970, 29% bird species have been lost. That's a lot. And that's mainly due to cats, collisions with buildings, those kind of things, you know, and like, poor birds, they're having a hard time. I have more to say about this. That's not the only thing that they struggle with. Hummingbirds in agriculture, like very intensive areas with lots of agriculture, they across Canada and California is this, by the way. They're chronically exposed to multiple chemicals as well, so they inhale some of the chemicals which affect their well-being, but not only theirs. Like, hummingbirds are part of an ecosystem, so it affects their well-being, but also of the insects, the flowers, the forest. They all are tied together into one ecosystem, and if one thing is being affected by agriculture, for example, then all of the other things are also in turn affected. Climate change affects forest ecosystems as well, which is critical to the habitat of the hummingbirds. Climate change impacts the food availability and nesting sites over time. Another study I found said that there are shifts in migratory patterns due to rising temperatures, and this may also disturb ecosystem and bird populations. The study saw that out of 103 bird species, 28 of them showed early arrival dates. So we can see that there is now a shift between when birds are starting to migrate. This is because early in the year it's getting warmer. It's getting warmer and warmer, so the birds think, oh, it's now springtime, I have to go. Or like, oh, it's now this time, I have to go migrate. The birds are a little bit disrupted and confused about the times because the weather is changing, the climate is changing. Those were the facts that I found about hummingbirds in general. But the ruby-throated hummingbird is doing good right now. They're doing well. Their population is growing, which is great. I do think we need to be considerate about the hummingbird population in general. There are a lot of different hummingbird species, and a lot of different bird species, but we still need to protect them against climate change and human activities and so on. Because if we don't, then things will turn out very ugly, and we don't want that. You know, no, we don't want that. Hummingbirds are such beautiful birds. There's so many beautiful birds out there. Please, let's protect them all. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the ruby-throated hummingbird. It's just a small, cute bird, and yeah, even though I'm not very into birds, I do want to learn more about birds because there are just so many birds out there, and also they have an interesting history. They come from dinosaurs, like, that's nuts. Anyways, I'm getting distracted again. I'm just yapping at this point, but first of all, if you've watched this far, thank you. We can talk more in the comments down below. Of course, I'll also cite the sources from the information that I told you. I will cite it all in the description. I hope you learned something new, that you learned something more about the ruby-throated hummingbirds, that you now know of their existence if you did not know them before. I'll also link some organizations down below that you can check out, organizations about the well-being of birds or bird protection, and so on. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next week.